Hey, Jared, welcome to the show. Before we started recording, you mentioned something that you were doing in the past that was sucking you into the day to day and killing growth. What was that?
I was being meetinged to death.
Meeting to death. I love it. Well, let's dig into that more. What specifically was happening and how did it start affecting the company's growth?
Yeah, I would say, being a business owner, you feel as if you are not feel, you are the leader of that organization, right? And so everyone wants a touch point with you. And also, you want to make sure you're available to everybody, emotionally available to everybody. We follow a system, EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System. And within that system, they have, weekly meetings, you have monthly meetings, you have quarterly conversations. And so I was having this with a lot of different staff members over and over and over again, to where if we look at my weekly calendar, it's like meeting, then this, meeting, then that, meeting, then this. And then not only was it sucking up time, but emotional bandwidth as well. It was causing issues with my manager, because someone would be sharing something with me and then I would have to go back and share something with her. And so it's just like this giant cyclical problem that kept happening over and over and over again. And I am a very strong, I guess you would call like developer mindset when it comes to getting work done. So I'm the type of an individual where I need like 2, 3, 4 hours, blocks of time to really crush things.
Mm.
And I'm not the manager type meeting, mindset where it's like 20-minute chunks here and there. So by having these meetings, my days were just getting destroyed and my work productivity was going down the drain.
And with that, getting pulled in different directions and not having the work time that you need and desire, what was the impact to the company?
Well, huge impact to the company because I wasn't able to produce what my job responsibilities were, which still maintain like marketing, getting out there and doing sales, meeting with people, connecting with other business owners. So it wasn't allowing me the freedom to go do the things I need to be doing as the business
Yeah.
owner.
Yeah.
Outside of the business impact, it was actually taking probably a bigger toll on the family side of things, because then I was finding myself working in the evenings and doing, the behind the scenes things, answering the emails, working on some of the operation problems, late at night when I want to be with kids, or, early in the morning, forcing myself to get up to try to get ahead of things, which then caused me to be tired and, not as available maybe for my family as I'd like to be.
So what did you realize that had to change in that messy middle moment and what did you start doing differently?
Yeah. So great question. So, within going through EOS, I learned that I needed to have a teammate. I needed to have someone by my side who could take some of this off my plate, and kind of build another layer of management, I guess you would say, in order for me to be freed up. So in that sense, we are able to finally hire a operator, a general manager,
Yeah.
integrator, whatever term you want to use. That allowed me to have that individual build the relationships with my key staff members, with my full-time staff members, with part-time staff members, to where people were going to her to have these weekly, monthly, quarterly conversations. And then the beautiful, brilliant spot for me was now I meet with her every 2 weeks to then be downloaded on all that information that she's learning. What's going on? What's the culture? And what's the staff feeling like? What's the environment with the entire business, and how are things going? And we have a good 2 hour to 3 hour meeting every 2 weeks now, for me to figure those things out and kind of work towards solving those situations.
What I love about your approach is that you didn't avoid it and ignore it. Right? The death by meetings is a common happening that I hear from business owners, and many people will just ignore it and stop having the meetings, which is definitely not a good approach. Everybody needs to be managed and managed to results and held accountable. So those meetings are super critical to a business's success. But to your point, it doesn't have to be you. So, what changed when you made that change? What did that allow for in terms of your own personal space?
Yeah, I would first say it was hard to make that change. It was very difficult. It's like I always use the analogy of like cutting the umbilical cord, or delegate to elevate type mentality of making sure that you give somebody else the ownership, right, to take on this role, because that is a huge important piece to this role. Whereas as a small business owner, usually it's just you first, and then it's you and another person, then you and two other people, and eventually it's you and 6, 10, 20, how many other people. But at some point, you can't meet with all those people and then be there and be available for all those people. So that was a super difficult piece to the puzzle. So I think the hardest, and then building trust with my operator to be comfortable to have those conversations, and for me to know that she can essentially replace me to an extent, to be open to our staff to do those things. That was also a very challenging piece, and took time. And I think that's like the overarching. I always say, like, time solves all things,
Yes.
right? And so, but all too often we want things to like happen right away, and so I just had to give it a little bit of time there.
Yeah. Folks, my name is Tim Campsall, and this is Self Made is a Myth. And we're talking with Jared today. Jared, what's the name of your company and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we are Myriad Fitness and Yoga. So we are a fitness facility and yoga studio in downtown Indianapolis. So we're located in the historic Stutz building, which has been recently renovated about 2 years ago, which is 400,000 square foot complex, and we are one of the businesses that's in there. So we focus primarily on a group fitness training, which is what we call is CrossFit. So that's our group fitness class. We use a specific proprietary programming method called level method programming. Then we have a Olympic weightlifting gym as well that's attached to us, so people can do that. We also offer personal training, and we do a High Rocks program, which is something that's new in the fitness realm here in the States. And then we have a yoga studio in a separate part of the building that we also offer as well. So our big unique is you can come to us and be a part of our fitness customer life cycle, and you don't have to have a yoga membership here, a fitness membership
Yeah.
here, personal training membership here. You could do all of that with us.
Fantastic. Stepping into ownership requires a bit of a leap of faith. So, Jared, what was the biggest surprise between what you expected when you first came into ownership and what it's actually been like?
Um, I would say that it's probably nothing happens right away. Is probably the biggest thing for me that was kind of like, it took some time to figure out, like, you know, I had this idea of I've always wanted to be a business owner. I've always wanted to have my own thing, but I always felt like I had to create a widget. I had to create a product. I had to create a software. Um, and I share this with people all the time that you providing a service to somebody and they're willing to pay you a monetary exchange for that service, that's a business. And
Yes,
that can,
right.
and that can start when you're in high school. That can start when you're in college. That can start when you're 50 years old. It depends on what part of the journey you are and when you are mentally prepared to like step into that role. And for us, my story is working with my best friend since we were 6 years old. And, we grew up playing little league soccer together, middle school soccer, high school soccer, college soccer together. And then eventually he came to me after we graduated and said, "Hey, let's start a gym." And I was like, "Okay, cool. But like, who's going to pay us to start a gym?" And then, eventually we landed on a CrossFit gym because he was doing CrossFit in Chicago. And then eventually we opened up a gym and took that leap of faith. And I will never forget the first person who stepped into our door a week before it opened. We were in our space building it out. And he's just like, "Here's a check for my first month of membership." And we're just like, "We're not even open yet. We're not."
That's awesome.
"Well, I want to be a part of this. And I love what you're doing here in the city. And here you go." And Peter and I
Wow.
both were just like, "What do we do with this check now?"
Right.
Because it's like, I never cashed a check for
Right.
this
Yeah.
is back in 2011. Uh, but yeah, that was a huge leap of faith in a sense of like, don't really know what we're doing. And we thought it was all going to happen so fast. And it kind of did, but it kind of didn't.
Yes, right. Yes. There's a phrase that goes around the business community that oftentimes owners significantly overproject the business in the short term and underproject it in the long term because there's just a lot to figure out in the first few years. And it doesn't have, to your point, right, it generally doesn't happen as quickly as we anticipated or what the business plan had suggested.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Before the show, Jared, you had shared that wearing the marketing and sales hat is an area that currently keeps pulling you into the day to day. So give us some context. What's happening today and how is it affecting you?
Yeah, I would say there's two pieces to that puzzle. One is, the sales side, right? Like as a business owner, it started off with me and my best friend. Have since bought him out of that role, so I'm a sole owner of the business and I have a team around me. But as I'm the sole owner, I am still making sales. Every single conversation I have is a potential lead, and I think with you, I kind of share the idea of. Was it Glengarry, Glen Ross, ABC, always be closing type deal where it's like, if I'm talking to someone, they ask me like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm going to then go down the rabbit hole of sharing because I'm passionate about what I do. We're changing
Sure.
lives on a daily basis with our clients, and tell them and share our story and share my story. And a lot of times when I have that conversation with people, they then get excited about it, and want to be a part of it. So then I then go down a rabbit hole of like, okay, well, this is a potential lead. Now,
Yeah.
how do I get them into our sales system with our sales team? And
Yeah.
times I get lost because I'm not necessarily in the day-to-day physical sales of the behind the scenes on our, processing system, that then I'm just like, I almost, lack of better terms, like screw things up in our operations because I'm just like, all right, I've got this lead. Now what?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it's like kind of like relearning some of those things. And we've slowly gotten to a place where I can kind of pass that off. So that's been good, but also kind of challenging too, because there is a world where I don't want to always have to be selling, always have to be on. I want a team to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that way I can kind of step away from this and let it run itself. So I would say that's one piece. And then the biggest one that I struggle with, that really to my heart, I don't know how to solve. So Tab, if you have answers, please, is, we are a type of business where, if you have ever heard of the icon problem before.
Mm,
So, like I am the face of the business. I've been the face of the business since 2011, whether that be social media, whether that be in person, like in the actual physical space, people recognize me as the owner of the business. But like, I don't necessarily always want to be that. I'm 15 years in now, 30
yeah.
years from now, I probably don't want to be in that role. So how do I transition out of that? How do I transition out of that from a social media perspective? Like if you go to our Instagram page, you're going to see a
Yeah.
lot of me.
Yeah.
I have a personal goal this year actually that I'll share here is I want to take a 90-day hiatus from all social medias,
Mm,
but I honestly don't know how to do it because I feel like as a small business, you have to be on social media. You have to be monitoring. That's where leads are coming from. That's where conversations are coming from. That's how people find out about you. So can I build a
yes.
team, or figure out a system in which I don't have to be that face and then I can trust someone else to be that face? And
Hmm.
what does all that look like? So I know,
Yeah.
sorry, that was very
Oh
big.
no, it's a very common problem. I appreciate you sharing. Is for folks who have built personal brands, which is what is being touted nowadays, is the importance of building a personal brand. Right. The caution is what you just described. Is if we build personal brands, then we can't get out of it. Right. Because now we've told people that they should be asking to work with us, right, as opposed to asking to work with our company. And so it is a fine line between being the spokesperson for our company versus being the face of our company, or being right who everybody expects to interact with and buy from. And so yeah, what you just described is a common challenge that I'm hearing from folks who have built more of that personal branding as opposed to company branding. So Jared, as you're explaining that to me, what comes to mind is the question of why is that such a priority in terms of changing that? Why is it important to you to start moving away from you being the only marketing voice?
Sustainability, in the sense of a goal of mine is to allow my business to be a, cash flow asset on its own without me having to be in it day to day. Which again,
Yeah.
coming back, that's something that you and I've dug deeper into, is like the messy middle, where it's like you go through stages in which like, oh, the business is running itself right now. The culture's good. Everything's great. Like I can get away for a little bit, but then this happens or that
Mm,
staff member
yes.
leaves, whether it can
Yes.
be, and then you're pulled right back into it. So if I have a couple different pieces, the marketing piece, the sales piece, the meeting with people pieces, like, and the staff member leaving pieces, but then I immediately get pulled back in, then I'm not reaching my ultimate goal of being able to create a
Yeah.
sustainable business. And that's why it's important for me to sort of figure out what does that look like from a marketing perspective, social
Sure.
media perspective, to not necessarily always have to be the face.
Yeah.
And to be honest, and this is probably being maybe a little bit too vulnerable, but becomes exhausting as well.
Sure.
Over 15 years, we've probably had 10, 15, 20,000 people come through our doors as
Yeah.
members. And I try my best to have a one-on-one relationship with all those people as best as I
Oh
can,
wow.
know their names. Like one of our rules in our classes is, as a coach, you should be saying each member's name 3
Yeah.
times. And that
Yeah.
way they feel seen, inspired, heard. They feel good about being there.
Right.
And I challenge myself to that same thing as well. But over 15 years, it's hard. And you have other networks, business networks, friend networks. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dunbar's number, but essentially there's science out there that says you can have about 150 meaningful relationships where you know intimately about those people.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm way above that number.
Yeah, 15,000. That's
We
yeah.
struggle with trying to figure that out from time to time. And that just all ties back into that icon
Yeah,
situation, and
sure.
how do we pivot the business to not necessarily, I'm not gonna say it's all about me, but, like, to pivot where it's, it's more about the holistic Myriad fitness and yoga and not, me or another staff member.
Well, the good news is there are many examples of companies like larger companies that are
Totally,
run.
for sure.
So we know it's possible. It's just more of a matter of how, right? It's the baby steps in terms of the pivots and the steps forward and the consistency. So you shared quite a bit here about the personal cost. What's the business cost if nothing changes? If you remain the face of the business, how does that impact the company?
I think if I remain the face, I think it just forces me to continually maybe do the things I'm a big fan of. Do the things that bring you joy. You're gonna be doing those things really, really well versus, like, if you get stuck in the area where you're, like, forced to do things
Yeah,
that don't bring you joy, it's gonna, other people are gonna see it, your staff are gonna realize it, your members are gonna see that and realize it, but as a business owner, you're always gonna have to do some things you don't wanna do,
yeah,
like,
of course, yes.
like, I'm not the biggest fan of, the P&L and profit and loss statements and then diving through all that, but I know
Yeah,
I have to do it, right?
yeah,
And so, like, the biggest cost to the business is it's just it pulls me in a direction I don't necessarily wanna be in.
sure. Yeah,
And, we're actually playing with that a little bit at this moment in time. We have 2 interns that have been doing a fantastic job. They're both 22, 23, so that Gen Z, and they're crushing it from a social media
yeah,
perspective. So, like, I'm already kind of seeing light at the end of the tunnel in that specific area of, like, well, maybe we build out some SOPs around hiring a marketing intern, in the fall, spring, and summer, and have internships available for people.
yeah,
And we have a guideline, systems process of what they should be doing to
absolutely.
follow. So
Yes.
that's been positive to potentially solve for that specific issue
Point.
that keeps pulling me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, love it, love it. You mentioned we both mentioned messy middle a couple of times today. By definition, it's where the business outgrows how the company is being run and keeps the owner in the day to day. So, what lesson, Jared, do you wish that you had learned sooner to allow you to have gotten out of the day to day or parts of the day to day? And what was the cost of not knowing that lesson sooner?
yeah. This one's gonna be right up your alley, and probably you're gonna smile. I'm a huge fan. I've learned over the years, and so, like, of course, when I was younger, I had a huge ego, like, I can do everything on my own, but I am a huge fan of everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs a coach for almost every aspect of life if you can afford it, if you have the space for it. In this specific world, what I wish I would have learned sooner was hiring a mentor, a business mentor, sooner than what we did. My business partner and I talked about it for years and years and years and years, literally 3, 4, 5 years
Yeah,
of hiring a business coach and a specific mentorship group in the gym space. And we just drug our feet on it. And because of cost, we came up with every excuse as
yeah,
possible, right?
yeah,
And I just started following all the free content that business was putting out to the point where I'm just like, we might as well just become a part of them and, like, have a mentor to where we meet with that business coach, that mentor, once a month for an hour and go over the issues, solve for those issues. The
yeah.
biggest piece of that, and this is accountability.
Mm,
You say the same thing over and over in the same meeting for 3, 4 months in a row, you're not doing what needs to be done. And for you have someone to be like, "Jared, like, you've said this 3 or 4 times already. Like, do this." And then
yeah,
that has to be done by the next
yeah,
meeting.
yeah,
That's everybody. That's everybody in every workspace, and it's so important. And I also believe in that, like, if you have a fitness goal, hire a fitness coach, personal trainer. If you have a nutrition goal, a nutrition coach, whatever the case may be, like, I'm trying to get better at golf. So I've hired a golf coach because otherwise I'm just going to watch stuff on Instagram and YouTube. And then now someone who worked with
yes,
me personally. So
yes.
I'm a big fan of, what is it? Exponential growth, exponential learning by using someone else who's been there before, who can walk you through it. And it's going to save you so much time, so much money, and allow you not to make as many mistakes. You're still going
Yeah.
to make mistakes, but not as many.
Sure. So reflecting back, what was the cost of not making that move sooner?
tens of thousands of dollars in probably so many different areas. Also, just getting ourselves, what is it? It's the idea of being working in the business versus working on the business,
Mm,
right? And like being able to step back, even if it's just what they call CEO time, being able to step back just 1 hour, start with 1 hour a week to be
yeah,
able to step back at the 30,000 foot level and think big vision, think big, SOPs, think big
yeah,
ideas,
yeah,
and then eventually, being able to do that with a team, like a leadership team, and when with others within your team, and then eventually giving them the opportunity to some autonomy to make some decisions on their own. And yeah, I would just simply say that allowed us to start having the right conversations and the right mindset for the business. Whereas if we were just, and I see this all the time in the day to day, or sorry, in the gym industries, where like people usually join the gym industry because they love helping people. They
yes,
love coaching people. They love helping people make physical changes in their life, but they may not necessarily be good at business. And that's why a lot of gyms fail, is because people are really good at the personal, at the
yeah,
coaching, but then not good at the business side. And so if you're not being able to recognize that, have awareness of that, and then
yeah,
hire a coach to help you with that.
yeah,
Luckily, my business partner and I, we were both at the Kelly School of Business. And so we kind of had the business, not kind of, we had the business education, but also the fitness side because of playing college sports and stuff.
sure, yeah. Yeah, your point about, most small business owners start their own business because they're experts at their art or their craft or their trade, and then very quickly realize that they don't have the expertise on the profession of business ownership, and the business will suck us into the day to day, right, for as many hours a day as we will allow it to, and so carving out that hour a week or 5 hours a week or whatever. I love your term CEO space. Having that strategic thinking time and planning time, so much can be accomplished in that 1 hour, right? If we're just disciplined to hard coding it on our calendar and not letting the business steal it from us.
Yeah, I'll never forget our very first mentor. He's one of the very early gym owners, a CrossFit gym owner up in Chicago. So like their name was CrossFit Chicago. And he told us, he's like, before I even start working with you all, this is when we were thinking about opening a gym. He's like, I need you to read this book. And it was the E Myth, which I'm sure you've read the E Myth before.
Yeah.
And the whole story of how the baker essentially loves baking, starts her own business. And then before you know it, blows up. And by the end of the whole book, I'm probably giving away all the cliff notes here, or the spoiler. The end of it, she doesn't like baking anymore because it became so much about the business and about baking and all this crazy stuff. And it's like that happens all the time to business owners.
Yes.
It happens all the time, specifically in my industry. And it takes years for people to figure that out, to where it's like now I'm like, don't necessarily start a business in what you are super passionate about, because you
Yeah.
become unpassionate about that.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier about a lot of gym owners end up, going out of business or shutting it down. Burnout is a big thing, right? If we stay in our art or our craft or our trade, or if we stay working in the business, we've basically just bought ourselves a job, right? And we're trading our time for money. And as the business grows and becomes more successful, it requires more and more of our time, and it's just not sustainable. So a big shift that must happen in the messy middle is some of the things you've already talked about. Right? Is we've got to hire team members and delegate and have other leaders in the organization and be able to pull ourselves out of that the day to day so that we can be a business owner as opposed to just owning a job.
Yeah. And can I just quickly say that hiring those leaders, hiring those right people, that also takes a ton of time as well. Like, you're not gonna find the right person right away, and if you do, kudos to you, I'm jealous, but it took us, I mean, I sometimes hate to admit this, but we had about 5 different operators, general managers, whatever term you wanna use there, and every one of them got burnt out in one way or another, and I don't blame them, I blame myself and my former business partner on us not being the appropriate leaders in that time. And now years and years later, let's call it 7, 8 years later, I found myself in a space where I do have the perfect person in that role as an operator. But I think it was like, it's, come back to timing, right? Like everything has gotten to a place to where it's like, I'm a better boss, I'm a better leader, and I've created expectations a little bit better as well. And
Yeah.
so now it's all kind of like married up in a really good position for us.
oftentimes what I see is people skip a step. So,
Mm,
the owner gets busy, overwhelmed, and they think I need to hire somebody, and they quickly hire somebody, but they skip the step of systems. So, what are the systems and accountability metrics and scorecards and training that I need to put in place first to set this person up for success versus I'm overwhelmed. I need a body. Oh, thank goodness. Here's the body. And then I dump everything on them and overwhelm them and burn them out.
I'm laughing because you are spot on. We had no systems, metrics were all over the place, there was no accountability. And so, again, no fault to anyone else that we had in that role. I'll take the ownership on that, but you're spot on.
Yeah. And the reason that it happens so often is because we just don't know what we don't know, right? It's like, oh, well, I need a body. I know I need a body because I'm overwhelmed. And so let me go get let me hire somebody. Again, it comes back to that difference of, being a in the business perspective versus learning how to be a business owner, right? Learning how to be a business owner is more about that, those foundational steps of what comes next. Well, the systems come next, right? Team comes after systems. But again, if we don't know, we don't know, right? And we just know that there's too much work to handle on our own and we need some people.
And also, if you're the type of person whose brain doesn't work in a sense of like creating systems and,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
not notating those systems and writing those down and creating lists, which my
Yeah.
brain isn't that type of
Yes.
brain,
Yes.
there's a spot there for an opportunity to find
Yeah.
that person who can
Yes.
be that for you.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, you and I talked offline, right? Founders typically, right, are more of the visionary big picture thinkers and they see 100 steps as one and really hard to translate, right, and teach somebody that there's actually 100 steps and here are the details of the 100 steps because in your head it's just so clear that it's one, right? And how can somebody not understand this one step, right?
How many times has that got me in trouble? Many. I know what's going on. You don't?
Right? So Jared, in your journey when things felt um you felt stuck or overwhelming, what changed once you brought in an outside perspective, what you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So I would probably say, having a group of people around me was the most influential piece, like people I can go to and be able to share the issues, having that business coach, having that operator, having a former business partner who, was there through most of the journey for me, having, my spouse who I can share things with and kind of go through things. But like, just being able to have that support system is what allowed me to like be where I'm at right now.
Yeah, fair enough. So, self-made is a myth is the name of our show because we know that no one gets there on their own. So, who are the three people that you wouldn't have achieved the success that you have without them, and how did they help you along the way? So, who are the three, and how they help you?
Yeah, I really appreciate this because this allowed me to reflect and actually kind of get emotional about it a little bit as well. Because I've never given this shout out before, but like my mom is my number one. And I say that in the sense that without her, like I've been very fortunate where I had played sports in college, I had a scholarship, but also my parents helped me not have debt when I graduated. So I was debt free, which in this world we live in now, that's very uncommon to be able to come out of college and be debt free and just kind of like go from there. I'll also say this is a shout out that I give to my mom specifically, also my dad, but my mom's the one who did it. But on our very first lease that we had back in 2011, my mom signed a personal guarantee for hundreds of thousands of dollars
Uh,
for us to take on that lease because I didn't have any credit, I didn't have any background. My business partner didn't as well. We're both in our early 20s, and looking back on it now, I'm just like, wow, I don't know if I'd have done that for my child. That was a huge gamble, a huge risk, and
yeah, yeah,
to do that for us, and it means a lot to me. And also, honestly, made me work that much harder, knowing that that was on the line. It wasn't just like me on the line; it was my parents. You know,
right.
30, 40 years of working on the line as well. And then also, she owned a couple of UPS stores back in the day, so I just didn't realize in that time the entrepreneurial spirit that she had. And I didn't know what that was or what that meant as a small business owner. And now here I am, 20 some years, 15 years of my own business ownership. I'm just like, those are all the things she was going. Shout out to mom on that from there. And then Second one, my wife, she's my rock. I mean, we met at the gym. She actually joined the gym when we were a CrossFit gym over on 609 North Delaware Street downtown, and her apartment was right by it. She was in law school at the time. But she's one of those individuals who literally, she's an attorney, IP, she does intellectual property. And she's one of those who could literally be a leader in any industry, and she's just chosen to be an IP and does a phenomenal job with it. Has created a huge niche for herself,
Awesome.
and at a very young age has been very successful. And I always tell her like, well, if you don't want to do this, go do something else because you have that ability. Being able to go to her for advice is 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 tremendously helpful for me in my life, and so it's just something that I couldn't do without her.
And
And then
what's your wife's name? What's her name?
Caitlin Byczko. Yeah, so she works at, Barnes& and Thornburg downtown here and, just absolutely crushes it in the mostly the trademarks world, so it's very interesting as well for me as a business owner to kinda hear her side because she works with a lot of startups, a lot of Silicon
Yeah.
Valley type companies, and so it's fun for me to, like her and I to have conversations back and forth because it's a lot about business, which is cool. And then my third one would be my former business partner, Peter Brazovan. So we were childhood friends since we were 6 years old. I think I briefly mentioned we played a soccer throughout our entire life together. He's the one that was like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing called CrossFit. Want to start a CrossFit gym?" And I'm like, "Sure." And we played with different ideas of where to do it at and eventually landed on Indianapolis because that's where we went to college and figured we had a lot of networks there. And at the time, there was, you know, downtown back in 2011 and 2003 when we first came to Indy, there wasn't much going on downtown. So to open up a gym downtown was pretty scary because it's like our people
Right.
actually resonate with this and come to this. But we started taking a mega bus from Chicago because we were living up Chicago at the time, and we were just coming down finding spaces. We eventually found a space and signed a lease. It was a 6 month shotgun lease, and we rock and rolled from there. They said, "Don't touch anything, don't break anything. See if you guys can create a business in 6 months." And
Yeah.
luckily, we were able to. And in 2021, we parted ways as business partners mutually. And then, yeah, so and we still talk daily. He's still in consulting himself, and gym consulting, gym business consulting, and so still best friends. But like this wouldn't have happened if he wasn't like, "Hey, let's start a business."
Yeah. Very cool. Wow. So it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people on your journey. If they were all here today, Jared, what would you want to say to them?
Just a ginormous thank you. Outside of those three people, it's everybody. It's my current staff, it's the staff that we've had previously. I always say, like, our business doesn't exist. This platform doesn't exist without our members as well. So, like, the community of our membership is extremely influential. So yeah, I'm just grateful to anyone, everyone I'm able to connect with. I'm a big believer in connecting with as many people as you can. What do they always say? I think the phrase goes like, "Your wealth is like, or your social capital," essentially. Like I forget how that phrase goes. You may know it that I'm thinking of right now.
Might is it the one you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Is that
Close
idea?
to that. Yeah, yeah. And so it's just like it's so important to just build those relationships. So
Awesome. Jared, thanks so much for sharing your story today. I appreciate your time.
appreciate you having me on. It's been awesome.
For those listening, if you're stuck in the messy middle, there's a way through it and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Our 2 week coaching trial helps you see exactly what's keeping the business stuck and what needs to change. The link is in the description. And if this conversation resonated, like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. I'll see you all next time.